What's up, fellow connoisseurs of fiction? It's me, Full0Grace, and today I'm going to be giving an overview of the book Artemis, Fowl, The Lost Colony. This is the 5th book in the Artemis, Fowl series. I've already done an overview of the last 4 books. I highly recommend you watch those videos before proceeding. Link in the description down below. Before we begin, let's quickly go over some of the characters we'll see. I've already reviewed most of the main characters in my other videos. Artemis, Butler, Holly, Foley, and Mulch. Artemis is fighting his own mind because he's now reached puberty and he finds girls attractive to his delight and horror. Holly and Mulch are working together as bounty hunters. Foley can't stand working at the LEP anymore, and he managed to find a girlfriend. Minerva Paradiso is a 12-year-old girl who lives in France. She's basically a female Artemis with curly blonde hair. Billy Kong is a very complicated character. When he was a small kid, Kong's older brother Eric convinced him that demons roamed about, and that Eric went out at night to fight them. When Eric was killed by a gang, Kong was convinced that it was the demons. Now Kong is older and a killer. At about 1.5 feet tall, the pixie Day is well known in the criminal world as a smuggler who can drive anything. Before we move on, we need to cover the 8th family of the fairy people, demons. When they hatch from their eggs, they are imps. They will remain imps until they warp. Then they become demons. The only type of demon that doesn't warp are demon warlocks. Just to make it clear, demons do not have magic, but warlocks do. There are no demons on Earth because they all left on Hybris a long time ago. Demons use silver to anchor themselves to Hybris. If they take it off, they'll get yanked through space and time. The only way to stop it is to get silver on them. Number 1 is an imp, yet he's different from all the rest. At technically 14 years old, he's the oldest imp. He's smart and kind. He loves cooked food and has a massive vocabulary. Leon Abbott is a demon. He's your typical narcissist, and he's used every trick he has to make himself the leader of Hybris. Quan is a demon warlock. In fact, he's one of the greatest of the warlocks. He was there when Hybris was moved, but he was lost with all the other warlocks long ago. With that taken care of, let's get on to the actual book. We start off with Butler and Artemis in Barcelona. Much to Butler's irritation, they are waiting for a mysterious visitor. It seems they've wasted their time, but just as they're about to leave, a creature appears out of nowhere. The thing grabs Artemis's outstretched hand. Butler tries to pull his charge away, but Artemis Fowl is gone. So is Butler's hand, but like a phantom limb, he can still feel it. With his missing hand, he can feel Artemis's shoulder. Strong and stubborn, Butler pulls with everything he has and yanks his charge back to reality. Down in Haven, Holly is rethinking her decision to leave the LEP for the billionth time. Holly's thoughts are interrupted when their target, Day, appears. After a rather dangerous chase, Holly and Mulch catch Duda, but before they can turn them over to the LEP, they find themselves face to face with a group of elves holding guns. One of them steps forward and reveals herself to be Commander Vinyaya, a good friend of Holly's. The commander explains she's not with the LEP, and she really needs the 2 of them to come with her. After releasing Duda and hiding a tracker on the pixie, they're taken to a hidden base, full to the brim with top-of-the-line tech. And who's at the center of it all? Foley. After hugs and greetings, the centaur explains the situation. They had known a demon was going to make an appearance, but he arrived off target. But somehow, Artemis Fowl had better info than them and had been at the right spot. They ask Holly to go talk to Artemis about it. Once the elf learns she'll have her old rank of captain back, and more importantly that the uniform was black, she's all in. Fowl and Butler are in an opera house, carefully watching a specific section of the stage when Holly stops by. While Artemis explains to Holly his theory about Hybris returning, Butler uses the latest fairy tech to examine the other boxes. His attention snags on a girl and 2 men. He distinctly remembers seeing them at Barcelona, since Artemis had complained about being attracted to the girl. One of the men takes what appears to be a crutch and aims it for the exact location they think the demon will appear. Butler points this out, but it's too late. To understand what happens next, we technically have to go back a bit. After all, time on Hybris doesn't obey the same rules as Earth. Number 1 is sitting in imp class yet again, because he just can't seem to warp like all the other demons. You can only warp if you have bloodlust, and Number 1 just doesn't think that way. In fact, he's beginning to wonder if he might be a demon warlock, but Abbott refuses to hear any of that. And speak of the demon, and he shall appear. Abbott puts on a huge performance, but after class, the demon pulls Number 1 aside and, with a surprisingly beautiful voice, gives the imp a great idea. If Number 1 really is a warlock, he should go back to Earth. It's such a beautiful idea that Number 1 takes off his silver. Number 1 vanishes and reappears in a human building. What happens next is best described by number 1 himself. The tube flashed. Something exploded over his head. A bee stung number 1 on the leg. A female screamed piercingly. A herd of animals, elephants perhaps, passed directly below him. Then, most disconcertingly, the ground disappeared beneath his feet, and everything went black. The blackness was rough against his fingers and face. Artemis observed the whole thing go down. He watched as a smile spread across the face of the girl in the other box. While Holly follows the impnappers, the others investigate the 3 individuals with the help of Foley. It's quite clear that the girl, Minerva Paradiso, is in charge. In fact, she reminds them all of Artemis so much that Foley groans, "Great, now there's 2 of you." Once they learn where they're headed, they begin to plan. Unfortunately, the best plan they can come up with involves Mulch and Duda working together. The pixie reluctantly agrees, and the unexpected duo manage to get in and take over the security system. Regretfully, security notices them, but the guards' attention is quickly drawn away when Foley messes with their cameras and makes them think they're under attack from everything up to a tank. Long story short, Holly is grabbed and accidentally convinces Billy Kong that she is a demon, while Foley destroys all of their records, notes, photos, and videos. Holly gets loose and breaks out number 1, while Artemis distracts Minerva with a phone call. Once they're safely driving away, they plan to take number 1 directly to Haven. But since they still have access to the Paradiso security system, they notice things have gotten out of hand. Kong is so desperate to get his hands on a demon, he threatens to kill Minerva's father if she can't get him what he wants. His threats are interrupted by Artemis calling him. The young mastermind offers to trade number 1 for Minerva. "Now, why don't you name your preferred location? I'll be wearing a burgundy tie, pay attention to that. There are 101 ways this could go wrong. If it does, the police could tie one of us up for a long time." Kong chooses Taipei 101 in Taiwan as a location for the swap, just as Artemis thought he would. Our heroes do rescue both Minerva and number 1 away from Kong, but instead of leaving Taiwan as fast as possible, they only go down to a different floor of the building. Back when Artemis first met number 1, he recognized the marks and runes on his scales. It reminds him of a certain statue on display in Taipei 101. While number 1 tries to use his magic on the statue, Butler and Holly hold off Kong and his goons. With the help of the statue, aka Quan, number 1 manages to bring back the old demon warlock. Unfortunately, that's the only good thing that happens. Holly gets a bomb handcuffed to her wrist, and Artemis decides the only way to handle it is to send number 1, Quan, Holly, and himself to Hybris. Once they arrive on Hybris, things get way more complicated. Quan explains he'll need 5 magical beings to complete the spell and bring them back to Earth, but they only have 3. They also have to deal with a swarm of demons coming at them, with Abbott at the lead. While Holly holds off their attackers, Artemis, number 1, and Quan prepare the spell. They manage to get 2 more magical beings and finish the spell. Hybris is brought back to Earth, and everything is right with the world. Well, almost everything. If you want to know what went wrong, who the other magical beings were, how they managed to get Minerva and number 1 away from Kong, how Mulch and Duda took over the Paradiso security system, and how Minerva captured number 1, then I highly recommend you read the book Artemis Fowl, The Lost Colony. In fact, go ahead and read the whole series written by Owen Colfer. Anyway, I'm Full0Grace, and I'll see you all next time.